Have you ever baked bread and found it didn't turn out quite as expected? Maybe it lacked volume, had a pale crust, or even showed strange streaks inside? Understanding bread faults is essential for achieving the perfect loaf. In this video, we'll dive deep into external and internal faults in bread making, what causes them, and how to fix them. Let's get started. External faults. 1. Lack of volume. A small, dense loaf can be disappointing, but what causes this? Tight dough. Overly stiff dough, especially in thin bread, leads to reduced volume. Under fermentation. This happens due to chilling, too little yeast, too much salt, insufficient fermentation time, insufficient final proof, and excessive baking temperature. Not giving enough time for the dough to rise before baking and using too much heat can reduce volume. Low maltose flour. Flour lacking maltose results in weak gas production during the final proof, causing a compact loaf. Over-fermentation. When all the sugar is consumed before the final proof, the dough loses its rising power. Excessive chemical improvers. Over-bleached flour or too many additives can weaken gluten structure, reducing stability. Pro tip: check dough consistency by pressing a finger into it. If it springs back slowly, it's proofed well. Also, maintain optimal yeast and salt balance for better gas retention. 2. Excessive volume. On the other hand, too much volume can also be an issue, leading to fragile and airy loaves. 2. Slack dough. If the dough is too soft, it may overexpand, especially in a cool oven. Low salt content. Salt strengthens gluten. Too little salt makes gluten weak, causing excessive rise. Overproofing. Too much final proofing results in an overly airy loaf. Loose molding. If the dough isn't properly shaped, it lacks structural integrity, leading to excessive expansion. Pro tip: for better dough handling, use the window pane test to check gluten development. Proper molding and a correctly heated oven prevent excessive rise. 3. Lack of crust color. Ever bake bread that comes out pale instead of golden brown? Here's why. Low baking temperature. A cool oven won't allow proper browning. Over-fermentation or low salt. These conditions reduce crust coloration. Too much water in dough. Excessive moisture delays crust formation, leading to a pale crust. Low maltose flour results in reduced sugar breakdown, affecting crust color. Skinning. During final proof, if the dough dries out before baking, it won't develop a healthy crust bloom. Pro tip: brushing the dough with milk, egg wash, or sugar water before baking enhances browning. A properly preheated oven is also crucial. 4. Shell tops. If the top crust lifts off like a shell, this could be due to under fermentation or insufficient proofing. The dough hasn't developed enough structure. Low maltose flour and high oven temperature. These factors can cause premature crust formation, preventing proper expansion. Pro tip: use a steam-injected oven or place a water tray inside the oven to maintain humidity and prevent premature crust formation. 5. Cleanliness issues. Finally, cleanliness matters. Dark smears from dirty tins, fingerprints, or racks can ruin an otherwise perfect loaf. Pro tip: always use clean tools, tins, and racks. Grease tins with fresh, unscented oil to avoid contamination. Before dive into internal faults, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Internal faults. 1. Cores, hard flour particles inside crumb. This happens when ingredients aren't properly mixed. Improper mixing. Hard flour or dough lumps incorporated during dusting can lead to visible cores. Skinning. During bulk fermentation, if the dough forms a skin, it breaks during the knockback stage, causing cores. Pro tip: always sift flour before mixing and use a well-calibrated mixer to ensure even ingredient distribution. Second seams. Seams appear as dense layers inside the loaf and can be caused by rough handling, moving the loaf too aggressively before baking. Temperature differences. Placing warm dough in a cold tin or vice versa can cause seams. Wrong tin size. A small tin compresses the dough too much, creating a visible seam. Pro tip: use a room temperature tin and handle the dough gently when transferring it to avoid disturbing fermentation. 3. Streaks. Uneven streaks in the bread? That's a sign of improper handling. Incorrect final molding. If the dough isn't properly shaped, streaks appear. Insufficient final proof. The dough must relax before baking to avoid tension lines. Pro tip: during final proofing, keep dough covered with a damp cloth to avoid skinning and ensure even relaxation. 4th, damp or clammy crumb. Ever had sticky bread that doesn't feel fully baked? Here's why. High maltose flour or excess malt. Too much sugar makes the crumbs sticky. Underbaking or excess humidity. Bread needs proper baking time and the right moisture levels. Pro tip: bake at the correct internal temperature, 195 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit or 90 to 93 degrees Celsius, and cool bread on a wire rack to avoid trapped moisture. 5. Dryness and rapid staling. If your bread dries out too quickly, consider these factors. Low baking temperature. This can lead to excessive moisture loss. Over-fermentation. Weak gluten loses moisture rapidly. Excess salt. Salt absorbs water, leading to faster staling. Pro tip: store bread in a paper bag or bread box rather than plastic to maintain freshness while preventing moisture buildup. 6. Color spots. Lastly, strange color spots in the crumb can be due to uneven mixing. Clumps of milk powder, sugar, or salt can create spots. Pro tip: dissolve sugar and salt in warm water before adding them to the dough for better distribution. Conclusion: bread baking is both an art and a science. By understanding these common faults and using the pro tips we've shared, you can troubleshoot and refine your techniques for perfect results. If you found this video helpful, give it a like, subscribe to Need to Know, and comment below on which fault you've encountered before. Happy baking!